financial executives attended today's meeting, including CFOs, group treasurers, and finance directors as well. So altogether, we discussed so many important topics surrounding today's complex world, right? And for my topics, I was responsible to share some insights around modernized cost management approach and risk mitigation strategies. We went through several questions. Preparing for this seminar, I did a lot of research around these two topics, some successful use cases by some famous companies around the world. So hopefully you will find this video useful. So I was asked several questions. The first one is, how does CFO or finance executives redefine their cost management approach? As we know, the traditional cost management is more focusing on austerity measures. Sometimes we cut costs for sake of cutting costs, right? But the potential risk is that could cause serious disruptions to our core operation. A modernized cost management approach is you need to have a systematic cost allocation approach. You put your investments into different buckets, right? Say 60% in OPEX, 30% in CAPEX related spendings, and then maybe around 10% in R&D or transformation driven spendings. But that's just the first step. The second step is how do you reduce it, right? Especially many companies are actually bothered by the increase of CAPEX spendings, but without seeing the actual benefits, right? And also by allocating, say, 10% to R&D. Some R&D could take quite a long time for the company to see the benefits. The approach that I recommend is, for example, Microsoft, they shift data center to a cloud infrastructure because it is more scalable by using cloud infrastructure. That's one example. Another example I quote to the audience is IKEA. So traditionally, IKEA sell goods and products through physical stores, right? But nowadays, they actually adopt a hybrid business model. Customers can easily order goods from online, right? They also save a lot of real estate or rental for IKEA. And for R&D, I encourage the audience to connect every single dollar of R&D spendings with what is the desired outcome, right? And in terms of desired outcome, there are two, I would say, important elements in there. First one is whether you are trying to improve your customer journey in the long term and customer experience. Because as we know, many corporations actually take customer journey and customer experience very, very seriously. And that is essentially the source of their income and long-term sustainability of their business, right? And another motive behind R&D spending is whether you can create some real differentiations, right, with your competitors. If the question is doubtful, then the spending is also doubtful, right? The second question I was asked is, how does CFO or finance executives balance the short-term cost pressures, right, against long-term benefits by innovation? I think there's not a perfect answer to it, but if we refer to some organizations in the world, even some very rich organizations such as Tesla actually accepted an investment of around 500 million from Toyota when Tesla was inventing autopilot. Another example is P&G. So P&G, they have a very successful product called Tide Pops. Do you recall in our home laundry, we will use a single dosed laundry detergent pads, right? You throw it into your washing machine and then it start to work, right? That product has created a lot of profits for P&G, but surprisingly, it wasn't invented alone by P&G. P&G launched a project called Connect+Develop. In that project, they actually invite many professionals from outside, academians, startups. They really come up with something that the organization never thought about and create unexpected revenues for the company. And they essentially use those revenues to also sponsor some moonshoot projects in this organization. So the message I try to give to the audience is, you may not always do innovations by your own, right? You can engage and collaborate with third parties from outside. But of course, you got to be very careful in selecting the right parties to collaborate. Another approach that I share with the audience is called zero-based costing. So zero-based costing is the senior management will keep asking the project team to justify every single dollar of spending. at the end, they identify there are so many redundant processes and steps that are actually not necessary and they are not creating any values. P&G is one of the companies that adopt this kind of zero-based costing. And at the end, from 2018 to 2021, the organization saved up to 2 billion. The third question that we talk about is how does organization, right, adopt modern risk management as agility enabler? We are facing unprecedented, I would say, geopolitical tensions and economic uncertainties. The legacy or old-fashioned risk management framework may not be quick enough to respond to those changes. We are now in an era of AI and also machine learning, right? So some companies like Siemens, the Germany conglomerate, right, they adopt simulated scenarios and into their actual production line. They created a project called Digital Twins to mirror actual production line activities and also the entire supply chain cycle. Even better is they also come up with so many what-if scenarios into the simulated life cycle. At the end, it helps the company to be able to predict more quickly and more accurately, and also to reduce the chance of operational disruptions. The fourth question that we went through is, okay, so what is the most effective way for companies to adopt advanced analytics and also technologies? Suggestion to the audience is, first of all, you have to be very determined to not continue to use Excel or over rely on Excel, because even so many companies are advocating, right, AIs and adoption of advanced technologies in the day-to-day operations. Most employees are still using Excel, right? Power BI is available, even though Python is a very useful tool that you can develop a lot of useful in-house analytical tools. Why this matters is actually, I gave an example about an airline, right? And I said Delta Airline, they actually deploy AI to analyze up to 150 millions of data points surrounding the airplane maintenance, and which turns out to be very effective in reducing the engine failure and saving the lives of passengers, right? And so imagine if actually an airline company, they still rely on Excel, right? Or some old-fashioned analytical tools. It could be an issue of life and death, right? So lastly, I was asked a question about how to raise the cost consciousness in a big company. Try to imagine if the CFO is handling a team of like 400 people, right? One more practical approach, IBM. And so IBM decided to do it differently. They reskilled actually up to 30,000 employees and educate them with practical skills and knowledges about AI and cloud computing. Most employees get a better understanding and about how AI and cloud computing is going to affect their day-to-day operations and at the end, their jobs, right? Because most employees, they are afraid of losing their jobs because of AI. So by enhancing the communications and also increase the transparency and with concrete reskilling programs, the companies can really make a step forwards in raising the cost consciousness among the employees. So hopefully my messages given to the audience today will be also useful to you. Thank you.